Welcome to Aromatic Chat, the podcast that introduces you to registered, clinical, and certified aromatherapists around the world. Every other week, my beautiful sister sits down with a different aromatherapist to learn about their aromatic journey and how they use aromatherapy in their lives and their business. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and my sister, Melissa, is your host. She's a master transformational coach and a registered aromatherapist, and probably the coolest girl I know.
Hey friends, welcome to podcast episode number 94, Aromatic Chat with Kathy Gentil. After 20 years in the United States Air Force, Kathy retired in 2011 to become a stay-at-home mom. She began her journey using aromatherapy in 2014 while seeking support for her son's very complex medical needs. After seeing rapid, positive results from using essential oils, she dove in to find out as much as she could. A graduate of the American College of Healthcare Sciences master's program, she then went on to receive her clinical level education through Rhiannon Lewis's Advanced Clinical Aromatherapy Level 1 course. Kathy has also been involved with the Trisomy 21 research group, focusing on nutritional approaches to meet the complex needs based on the biochemistry that is affected by having an additional chromosome. There is so much more to Kathy than meets the eye, and I know you'll be inspired by her story, so let's get started.
Kathy, I'm actually really excited that you're here because I've been a Facebook friend of yours for quite a while, and I creep around and I follow you and I get to see everything that you're doing with your family and everything. And you just have such a unique experience with aromatherapy, and I'm really excited to have you here and have the listeners hear your story.
Thank you for inviting me. And I know you've interviewed so many amazing aromatherapists on your podcast. I try and listen to it. And you are true to your word when you say that, you're going to interview everybody from the most elite to those of us who are still new. I'm by no means a vintage aromatherapist, having only been involved in using essential oils for about the last 9 years or so. So thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure to have you and talk with you and share your story with the listeners. So we're just going to go ahead and start there. What is it that brought you into aromatherapy?
I do not have this long storied history with aromatherapy. When I grew up, my aromatherapy was working with horses and their unique aromas that they bring. And we weren't into herbs or anything. We were the traditional American family, although our herb thing was what kind of alfalfa hay we were going to pick up for our horses. That was what we focused on. And we just followed medically, the modern medicine. And as I grew up, I went into the military, served in the military. And the military life is stressful. And as the latter part of my service, I had both my children. My second child, my son, was born with multiple disabilities, Down syndrome, and we didn't learn till later, but autism and pulmonary hypertension was his main medical condition that was very concerning for us. But I didn't have any medical background myself. I had to rely totally on the doctors for his care. Whatever the doctors recommended, we followed. And our job was to keep him alive and keep him growing. I finished out my military time and was dedicated to become a stay-at-home mom, so that I could care for him better and my daughter as well. A couple years after I retired, we would, again, following the doctor's guidance, we would always get our flu shot because the flu could kill him with his pulmonary hypertension. Even getting a bad cold landed him in the hospital a couple of times. So with his respiratory condition. We got our flu shot and he got very sick from the shot itself. He could not overcome it. It was like a cytokine reaction. His inflammatory process were just off the charts, and nothing the doctors were providing him was helping. They thought maybe it's a sinus infection, and because of his pulmonary hypertension, he could not take certain medications as well because it could affect the heart. So I was desperate. And in our pulmonary hypertension Facebook group that we were in, I asked the parents, what do you have that can help? Any ideas that that's safe for our children? And a couple of moms asked, have you tried essential oils? And I'm like, what are essential oils? I kind of remembered hearing about essential oils when I went on a cruise back in the 1990s and went into the spa, and got a facial, and the lady said, we have essential oils in our, products that we use. And I'm like thinking they're like fatty acid type oil based things.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, what are essential oils? And like, oh, well, they're volatile plant extracts that are very healthful. And I'm like, well, I don't know anything about them, but it's worth a try. But I also wanted to make sure that they would be safe. And so I asked my son's cardiologist, and they thankfully were very open to us trying the essential oils and said, sure, it wouldn't hurt to try. So my son had been sick for over 2 months. A lot of nasal congestion and just inflammation in his airway, making it hard for him to breathe. And so these ladies, yes, they were from an MLM, and I didn't know anything. So I went ahead and followed their guidance to try a couple different blends. And so I diffused the blends in his room overnight as he slept. And within 3 days, he was well.
Mm.
And he had been struggling for, like I said, over a couple months. And I was like, wow, there's something to these things. And I loved their aroma. I'm like, what are these things? So that was my in to wonder, what are these? And now I have to learn about them. And if they're that potent that they can bring him from this struggle in his health to breathing freely, to reducing his mucus, to reducing that inflammation in his airways, and being normal again in his breathing, what is it? I have to learn about this. And so that brought me into just researching. And I didn't know anybody in the aromatherapy community. I only knew these moms from an MLM. I personally wasn't really one that wanted to join an MLM. I wasn't interested in a business, that sort of thing, mindset, but I didn't know anybody else. And I started looking online, Googling, searching for different companies. And I'm like, I don't know who to trust. So I went ahead and did follow this one MLM. But in my searches, I found Dr. Robert Pappas, because he had been involved with, situations between the different big MLMs.
Mm-hmm.
And I found his Essential Oil University page on Facebook and started following that. And I watched all of his chemistry videos on YouTube that he had out there. And I'm like, well, this is chemistry and this is great. And I'm loving the science because my background is in math. I'm a mathematician, an analyst.
Okay.
And that's what I did in the military for the most part. But this isn't teaching me how to use the essential oils. It's great to have that science knowledge behind them. So I messaged Dr. Pappas. I just messaged him on Facebook and asked, okay, the science and the chemistry, who do I talk to about learning how to use them safely and effectively? And he mentioned Scylla Shepherd Hanger. So I searched her up on Facebook, the joys of social media, being able to connect people. And so I messaged her and I'm like, these people are never going to respond to nobody. I'm nobody. They don't know me. But she did. She responded. I'm like, I'm really interested in learning about essential oils. I am using oils from an MLM. What kind of advice can you give me? I want to use them properly. And so she said, told me about, she had beginner books. So I bought one of her beginner books and then was telling me about different Facebook groups to join to learn more and ask questions. So I immediately got into those groups and I was one of those people that were asking the dumb questions and, finding out, what to do and what not to do. Although I will say at that time, this was in 2014 to 2015 timeframe, it was really a big time when the MLMs had been thriving and
Right.
giving a lot of their advice. And then there was the safety side from the aromatherapy community saying, calm down, we need to use them safely. And it almost seemed like there was this over safety factor involved. And so,
Yeah.
let's, no, you can't do that, or no, or yes, you can. And so there seemed to be a little bit of imbalance in some of the advice being given. So I got over time, I was asking questions, and then with my son's medical conditions, they are so complex with pulmonary hypertension. I got to the point where, well, a lot of these people don't even understand pulmonary hypertension really. So, and with the differences in pieces of advice I was getting, I'm like, I'm going to have to go to school and learn and get educated so that I can make my decisions. And also at the same time, I was also learning more about Down syndrome, and I was invited to a trisomy 21 research group to learn more about the biochemistry of Down syndrome, which my son has. As I learned more about essential oils and I learned more about the biochemistry of Down syndrome, I was like, I can use this not just for his pulmonary hypertension, I can use this with his brain health and that sort of thing. So I was trying to find, what school do I want to go to learn aromatherapy? And with my military background, I did have my 9/11 GI Bill that was available to me. And so I'm like, well, the school has to be an accredited school to use it. And so I selected ACHS. And because I already had a couple of master's degrees, I was just going to apply for their bachelor level aromatherapy because I just wanted to learn aromatherapy. I wasn't even looking for a degree per se. But they recommended I did the graduate program. So I went ahead and said, okay, I don't have any background, so if you think I can do the graduate level? And they're like, yeah, it's the same information, but more detailed, more science. I'm like, well, that's what I want. So I did the graduate level program with ACHS, started that in 2017 and graduated in 2018. And with my goal of eventually going to getting clinical level training with Rhiannon Lewis, which I was able to fortunately do in 2019. And I went to her advanced clinical aromatherapy course in France in 2019.
Oh, thank goodness you did that in 2019.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Amazing timing.
Exactly. Right before COVID hit that next winter. Yeah. And I just really look at that and see God's hand in helping me get all that education done. And we're not done. We're never done with learning, but that foundational learning, so that I could then be applying what I've learned in our family. And I don't have a business, but I do help family and friends and such. So
yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. Like, what are you doing in the aromatic world? Like, how are you using the education that you've received and all the knowledge that you just have on a personal basis? How are you using all of that?
And combining that with what I've learned with trisomy 21 biochemistry, I am the admin for what's called the T21 Down syndrome aromatherapy and herbal support group on Facebook. We have about 650 members or so. Wow. We have people that want to use essential oils smartly with their children with Down syndrome. And essential oils are so wonderful and very well suited for the community in Down syndrome. And I did a presentation for ECA, Essence of Clinical Aromatherapy, last May on the adjunct use of essential oils or aromatherapy with Down syndrome. Because of their volatile nature and the inhalation and helpful for brain health, as well as so many other, respiratory conditions like my son struggles with. They're just perfectly suited for individuals with Down syndrome. So that's my volunteer group that I help support. And then I help family and friends. Since I don't have a business and I don't have the insurance and that sort of stuff, just whoever I get referred to, it's got to be somebody I know that's,
right,
that would trustworthy. And because of that, my family members have referred people to me I get a lot of, or nice, I didn't say a lot, but get the referrals I get are people that were kind of in a position like me where the modern medicine is not helping, and they're at their, what do I do now?
Yeah.
I need some help, and this modern medicine just isn't helping. So I get some referrals like that to be able to try and help people. So
Excellent. Is your Facebook group a closed group?
it's private. It's like if you were to search, you could find the name.
Okay.
But we don't have it open or public because it's geared for the families, the parents, caregivers of individuals with Down syndrome. We actually do have individuals with Down syndrome in the group as well who are self-advocates, and they contribute as well on occasion. So it's not like a group where aromatherapists should join in general kind of thing, because it's for the families of those with Down syndrome, if you will.
You've got so many people in the group. That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, it's specifically for Down syndrome? It's not for autism or anything like that specifically?
It's not, it's
2021?
geared specifically for Down syndrome. Like my son also has autism. My son is nonverbal. So that's a whole nother avenue, and the way I maybe care for him might be different than another child, where most people with Down syndrome are become very capable individuals, and they can talk and they can run businesses and that sort of thing. But it's such a broad spectrum of
Sure.
abilities in the community. We focus a lot on the biochemistry and the brain health, and because individuals with Down syndrome are highly probable of developing Alzheimer's disease as they age because of their brain health. So that's a lot of what we focus on, is supporting them in their brain health.
So what are some of your other passions? I know earlier you brought up horses, but
Yes.
What are some of your other passions? What are some of the other things you enjoy?
I do love to travel, and then I do love to go to Europe, and a lot. So I get one trip a year. Being a stay-at-home mom, caregiver to my son, I get a vacation each year where I can, and I usually try and go to an aromatherapy conference or class over in Europe. So I do love to travel. I love sports and fitness. So I was a volleyball player in college, so I don't play volleyball anymore, but try and keep up with sports. And I do love horses. I don't have horses anymore. I grew up with them, but I don't have them anymore, but they will always have a special place in my heart. And our family loves horses, and my sister still keeps horses. And so we will get together around horse type events. Like we collect Breyer horse statues. And so they have a Breyer Fest in Kentucky every year. So we will go to that on occasion, and that gets us around horses and things. So.
Oh, very nice. And I bet when you get there and all those smells hit you. Oh,
yes. And like growing up with horses and all that aromatherapy, I can appreciate and maybe tolerate a lot of aromas that a lot of people in the aromatherapy community will like, oh, I don't like that, particular essential oil. And I'm like, that smells pretty good.
What essential oil are you thinking of when you
a lot of when I first came in, a lot of people said they didn't like Roman chamomile. And I'm like, smells like hay to me.
Yeah, it smells like hay.
Or a lot of people, and I know people who don't like patchouli. Not that patchouli is necessarily a barn aroma, but those earthy, grassy aromas, vetiver. I love spikenard. People don't like spikenard, and I'm like, I don't want it in a lot, but when I want those undertones in there.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. I'm with you. All the ones you mentioned, I like. So I went to the Philippines and I just bought a bag. It's a cotton, bag that I use as a purse. And I'll put a couple of drops of patchouli and a couple of drops of sweet orange on the bag. And I just walk around smelling my bag.
Nice.
I'm a dork. I can't help it. So tell us a story about how you have seen aromatherapy really work, because as aromatherapists, like you said, we're a huge community, but we're all over the place. We're all around the world, and it can feel like we're alone. Like, what keeps you coming back?
Yeah, well, that obviously that initial experience with my son, seeing it
Yeah, for
work.
sure.
And then even right after I graduated in 2018 from ACHS, I was presented with a client who had a complex wound condition. And I'm like, I'm not trained in clinical. This is a clinical case. But she had nobody else to help her in the modern medicine. Her wound wasn't healing. And I know essentials are safe and can be used in clinical ways as long as you use them properly. So I did coordinate with a couple of, clinically trained aromatherapy friends, and was able to make a blend for her. And where she had gone from her wound not healing to seeing progress within a couple of weeks, and the doctor going, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. So you see it work, and her wound healed. That was a case I was able to actually get published in the International Clinical Journal of Aromatherapy, and then some sleep support. I combined a lot of herbal stuff as well. I'm not an herbalist, but I am learning as much about herbs as I can, reading as much, because aromatherapy is a great tool. It's one tool, but herbs are another tool to expand. So combining both aromatherapy and herbs, I was able to help an individual who had suffered from insomnia for 25 years. He said he'd not been able to sleep well. And through using, herbs and aromatherapy, he reported back, he's like, I slept and I will keep doing this. And I was able to give him, this is what you're using, and you're able to support yourself with this. So
Yeah, it's incredible. I always come back to the knowledge that, like, plants were here before humans were, like, because we were going to need them.
Yes, God gave them
survive.
to us for our use, and they were the medicine. They are the first medicine for millennia. And modern medicine is modern medicine.
Yeah, and modern medicine has not been around that long.
No, just the last century, really.
Yeah, really. And but even modern medicine, the medicine was based on herbs at the beginning.
Right. Everything
was based on herbs.
A lot of the drugs we use, that modern medicine uses, are patterned after molecules from the plants. So
correct. So the mission of the podcast is to connect you with people and people with you. So how can people find you and what you're doing in aromatherapy?
I'm on Facebook more than the other social medias, just as Kathy Gentil. I, again, have the Trisomy 21 Down syndrome aromatherapy and herbal support group. I have that on MeWe as well. It's kind of my backup. So whatever I put on the Facebook for that group, I also put on MeWe. We haven't really found necessarily what is contraindicated in using aromatherapy with Down syndrome in general. You're going to just assess the person as you would anybody else.
And that's one of the benefits of talking to a trained aromatherapist, because we do take into account the whole person.
Right.
We don't just go, oh, well, you're having this, smell this, it'll take care of it, because we're all individuals, we're all unique.
There are more, I would say, more constraints when we start to use herbs with Down syndrome. As far as, because we're going to be ingesting herbs with teas and infusions, that sort of thing. That's where we get a little bit more, okay, we got to be careful what we're using in that respect. But aromatherapy is pretty well tolerated and helpful for the group.
Excellent. So as we come down to the end of our time together, I always just love to hand the floor back over to my guest one final time, in case you feel like I missed something, if there's something heavy on your heart that you want to share, whatever it is, this time is yours.
Thank you for having me. And I just want to share with all the aromatherapists out there, just know that you're in a modality that is so helpful. as I've gone through the years and looking back over my time and figuring out, oh my goodness, when I was just following modern medicine, what kind of mistakes did I make? And when I incorporated aromatherapy, when I incorporated herbs, I've learned so much more, and we're always learning. You can use aromatherapy to help others, and as you learn more, use them wisely. The one quote I would like to share is from Maya Angelou, is do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. So for myself as a mom to my children, I feel like, you know, what I didn't do for them when they were younger is because I didn't know. But now I know. And now that I do know, I can do better. So that constant learning, we're always learning. You know, we've never arrived. We can always continue to learn. That will always give us passion for our modality, and to branch out and learn more things, to incorporate more things, and be open to more learning other options for care.
Wow. Thank you so much, Kathy.
Thank you for having me.
I have enjoyed chatting with you, hearing your story, and I know that it's going to inspire a lot of people who are probably quietly, silently caring for their own Down syndrome people in their lives. And I just know that your story is going to be inspiring to so many people. So thank you.
You're welcome. And just the community is so caring and supportive, and I've been very thankful for the aromatherapy community, and just, you know, providing the care that we need. And it has changed our lives for the better being in this community.
I really dislike when I hear someone make a heartfelt apology to another person, and that person dismisses the apology with something like, oh, it's okay, or no worries, or don't worry about it. When my kids were little and one of them did something to hurt another one, or they said something hurtful, I, of course, had them apologize. Then I continued the life lesson, telling them that when you say it's okay or don't worry about it, you're kind of giving the other person permission to do the thing again. Instead, it's important to accept it, or if they weren't ready, to not accept the request for forgiveness. I believe in the power of apologies. As a parent, I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to my kids to ask for their forgiveness for something that I did or didn't do as their mother. After I went through my coach training and I learned so much about the brain's development, I again reached out to apologize for something I did or didn't do. Each time I was met with the most humbling response: Mom, you did the best you could with the tools you had at the time. By George, they were listening. I had never read that quote by Maya Angelou that Kathy shared. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. But I had taught my kids that concept from the very beginning. We can't stand in judgment of someone who doesn't know better. But when they do know better, they can do better. If you are holding on to self-judgment for something you did or didn't do in the past, let that go. It really doesn't help you to move forward. It just keeps you anchored in the past. Now that you know better, you can do better. And if you need help figuring out how to do better, there are coaches available for that. Aromatic Chat is produced by Lemon Balm Coaching, and I'm your host, Melissa, Master Transformational Coach, Registered Aromatherapist, and Certified Body and Emotion Code Practitioner. I will see you next time with our next episode. Until then, peace, love, and aromatics.